Essential Copywriter Tools and Resources, the 2023 updated list. Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter, copywriting mentor, and I want to share with you the most essential tools. Now it's interesting, over the years, my mantra has become simplification, minimalization. I am a minimalist through and through in every aspect of my business. I'm constantly asking myself, is this necessary? Does it actually save time? Or is it just something that's fancy and makes things look pretty and completely unnecessary? This is because my number one priority is to make a business that is enjoyable, one that brings ease into my life, one that is not overly complicated, one that is effective and focuses on the most important things. So this list has changed. I've created this list before in other years, but this is the list that I have developed after working not only for myself as a copywriter, but in serving over 4,000 new copywriters. So I'm constantly working with copywriters. I'm mentoring them. I mentor them one-on-one. I mentor them in group programs. I teach them. I answer their questions every single week. And so quite frankly, not only have I learned from my own journey, but I have learned from their journey as well. And that has really informed a lot of my decisions because I've seen how so many different types of people come to different conclusions. But ultimately, when your focus is on making a business that is enjoyable, that brings in ease, a business that you are running rather than it running you, there are some themes and there are some patterns, and I have learned a lot. So let's dig in. So the first thing you're going to need, and that's probably the program you're going to use the most, is a word processor. And hands down, the best option is Google Docs right now. And that's because there is, first of all, a lot of familiarity with it, although sometimes with older clients, they'll try to get you to move to Word. And sometimes you have to do a little explaining as to why this is a better option. But when you have a word processor like Google Docs, you can share it. You can have multiple people editing in it. There's different drafts are saved, so you're not sending docs back and forth and having draft confusion. You can also set privacy settings, so you can make it so that some people can see it and some people can't. There's also voice dictation, which I love. At the end of the day, when I'm feeling tired and my fingers aren't as fast as they once were, I love to switch on the voice dictation tool and just kind of spill out some of my thoughts, get some words and ideas on paper, and that's kind of just squeezing a little bit more juice out of my day. Oh, not to mention the Google Docs search function has saved my butt so many times. Sometimes I can't remember a file name, and so I have to put in a few keywords that I remember typing within the doc itself to go ahead and find that piece. I mean, I'm going on 10 years now as a copywriter, so sometimes I'm searching for something I wrote 8 years ago, and all I can remember is that it was about epigenetics and testosterone, and there was a story about 2 kids. And so I will literally type that into my Google search bar, and lo and behold, there she is. Next up, we have our editing tools, and there are 4 tools that I really, really love and still use to this day. And then I have a bonus 5th tool for you. So the first one is HemingwayApp.com. It's really a fantastic website, not an app. It's HemingwayApp.com. A little confusing, but it's a fantastic website that will help you, use the active voice more, make your sentences more simplified and shorter and punchier, and bring that reading level down. So Hemingway app is a fantastic tool. I really want to recommend that for you, especially if you came from a formal English background where you were taught to write really verbose, long, flowy sentences, because that's not really going to help you as a copywriter. You're going to have to learn to get more short and punchy, conversational, emotional, and to the point. This was something I had to work on, and Hemingway app was the best tool for getting me there. My next favorite editing tool is Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is fantastic, and it's a plugin, so it will show up in your emails and when you're editing website copy and when you're in your Google Docs, because sometimes the Google Docs spelling function isn't always the best. So I love Grammarly. I actually don't use Grammarly Pro. I signed up for it once and I found it to be unnecessary, especially because in copywriting, we tend to break some of the grammar rules that are out there. And I know that's going to upset you, some of you people, so much, but it's the truth. So anyway, Grammarly is fantastic and the free version is plenty. So definitely use that tool. My next favorite editing tool, or I'm going to put it in the editing category, is Headline Studio by CoSchedule. This is such a fun and helpful tool for, kind of making your headlines more effective and punchier. They also have a subject line tester for emails, and it's just a great way to make sure you're taking the time to really craft the perfect, most effective headline. So it gives you a score. It's kind of fun to break your score, kind of gamifies it a little bit. So that is definitely one of my favorite tools. If you're not already using it, I encourage you to check it out. My next favorite tool that I'm including in the editing category is Qtext. Qtext is a plagiarism checker. It's something that's really great to kind of give you a peace of mind in the beginning, especially if you're first starting out and you're like reading a bunch of copy and then trying to write your own. You want to make sure it's original. So I used to run things through Qtext. And it can be really helpful to kind of just give you that peace of mind. So Qtext is a plagiarism checker. It's very helpful. All right, so those are my 4 favorite pieces of editing type software. My 5th favorite thing is to actually hire a copy editor. If you have been watching any of my videos, you know that I'm a big believer in that because collaboration is quite frankly more fun. But also, if you are working with an editor who's truly trained in copy, I'm not talking somebody who's checking your grammar and stuff like that. There's actually tools for that. But if you're working with somebody who is trained in copy and understands copywriting, you're going to become a better writer just by working with them. It is so worth it. And all you got to do is figure out how much it's going to cost you and tack it into your prices. It is seriously a no-brainer. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a game changer it was when I started to really get professional, upgrade my services, and hired a good copy editor. All right, next up are my 4 favorite SEO tools if you are using SEO in any of your copy. First things first, we've got Ubersuggest. Ubersuggest is super helpful. I also really love it for website audits. Then we've got Keywords Everywhere, which is a nice plugin, which will show you more keywords as you're kind of moving through the internet. And then this next one isn't really a tool, but it's super helpful and people often forget it. It's just the related search suggestions that Google gives you when you're doing your own keyword research and typing things into Google. And then of course, you've got Google Trends. So sometimes you don't need SEO tools if that's not something that you're incorporating into your copy, but if you are, those are my 4 favorite. So this brings me to my next favorite tool, which is something that I sometimes use kind of for SEO purposes, but I also use it for market research and quite frankly, just for brainstorming. It's one of my favorite tools, and it is called Answer the Public. When you put a keyword in, it will give you a whole bunch of questions that people online are asking about that particular topic. And sometimes if you're writing a piece, it can be as simple as picking one of those questions and answering it. So definitely check out Answer the Public. It's seriously one of my favorite tools. All right, next up, we've got your client acquisition tools. My favorite thing for finding emails to cold email people is hunter.io. There's also Contact Out. And again, client outreach, especially when you're first starting out, is so important. And it can feel a little intimidating at first, but when you have those tools and you do a little digging, and it is kind of like solving a puzzle. Like it's not always going to be cut and dry. It's not going to just give you like a whole bunch of emails. You have to do a little sleuthing. So if you approach it like a detective and you use these tools, you're going to have, a lot of luck eventually. But it does take work, and yeah, I don't know. Hang in there. It's really good to get good at client acquisition because that's what gives you the confidence to know that like when seasons change, when you lose a client, or just like when you need to drum up some extra money because you had an unexpected life expense, you have the confidence to know that you can bring on clients. So some of the next tools include social media. Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But I want to talk to you about this for a second because I feel like I'm a little bit different than a lot of other people out there in the advice that I give around this. I think LinkedIn is a great tool. If you're like newly making the shift as a copywriter and you're coming from a different industry and you don't want your job to know that you're making this shift, especially if you're starting as a side hustle, then LinkedIn might not be a great option for you, but it could be a good option for you later on with client acquisition, right? And then you've got Instagram and Facebook. Now, there are lots of copywriters who use Instagram and Facebook, but I want you to know that you don't have to. Like truly, I never used Instagram or Facebook to create my entire business. There's so many other client acquisition strategies out there. And so if that's not something that appeals to you, you don't have to do it. And this is something that's really important to keep in mind. Whether or not you use social media will depend on who you want to write for. For example, there are some people who are not going to be looking at copywriters on social media to get advice, because usually you're going to be giving advice around marketing. And that's for people who are a little bit more interested in some of the DIY stuff. So for example, doctors, lawyers, they quite frankly don't want to necessarily learn about marketing. Most don't, because they're too busy in their own field of experience. So those are the kinds of industries and niches where social media just doesn't make any sense anyway. So make sure if you're going down the social media path, you're asking yourself, who am I trying to get in front of? And are they hanging out on Instagram and Facebook trying to learn about copywriting? Ask yourself that question. Next up, we've got our client communication tools. My favorite calendar scheduling tool is Calendly. It is so much better than trying to find times that work. Here's my Calendly link. Go ahead and pick a time. It's synced up to your calendar so that they see what is available and what matches their schedule as well. Love, love, love Calendly. My other favorite client communication tool is Loom, because sometimes creating a quick video, a quick screen recording goes a long way and is much easier and faster than typing it all out in an email. I can't tell you how many times Loom videos have saved me and a client from being super confused, but also saved us from hopping on a call. Like, you don't always have to have a meeting, right? Like, some things are so much more solvable, more quickly and more effectively with a nice Loom video. And you just drop the link to the Loom video that you created, send it to them. And then the other great thing is they can watch it on their own time, right? So it's way, way, way more efficient, and I love it. So Loom is another really helpful tool. All right, next up, you've got your invoicing software. Now, there's two that I recommend. I personally recommend FreshBooks. It's simple, it's clean, it's easy, it doesn't have a ton of bells and whistles, but she is tried and true and trusty and doesn't overcomplicate things. Again, I am not a tech savvy person. My team loves to laugh at me and make fun of me for it. I fully own it. I'm pushing back against it. I've come very far, I must say, but that's why I love FreshBooks. It's simple, it's to the point, it doesn't overcomplicate things. The other tool that I recommend, and only because my students love it, is Dubsado. And Dubsado is fantastic because it integrates both invoicing and contracts and proposals. But it is a little bit of a learning curve to figure it out. Dubsado people love. So I'm throwing that in there in the invoicing category. When it comes to contracts, I used to recommend and.co. That has now become Fiverr Workspace, but that's a great tool. There's a lot of wonderful templates. I want to encourage you to not get too stressed out about contracts. It's something that people tend to get really hung up on, but you just want to make sure that things are communicated effectively, and ultimately it's mostly about setting good expectations. So you can also do that in an email, like set really good expectations with your clients, and anytime something comes up, like maybe somebody's late on a payment or something like that, you just integrate that into your next contract, learn from your mistakes. I always joke that clients who cause problems are policies in the making. So if you have an issue come up, just remember, okay, this client is a policy in the making. What policies can I implement in my business? And sometimes they're not something you like share openly, but it's like an internal policy, like a boundary. And that is all you really need to kind of move forward and make everything more effective and to prevent things that were maybe unfortunate from happening again. The next tool I recommend is Squarespace for websites. I used to recommend Wix, I used to recommend WordPress, but I've kind of moved away from that just because Squarespace's templates are so good. They look gorgeous, they look professional, they don't look like templates, they're not difficult to figure out, the support is amazing, there's so many help forums, and if you are not a tech savvy person, that is the way to go, hands down. I really don't recommend Wix anymore. Their templates look so bad. And I can tell within 2 seconds when I'm looking at a website if it's a Wix website. That's not a good thing. So I don't recommend Wix. WordPress can be okay if you're comfortable with tech stuff, WordPress.org. And people used to say that you should use WordPress if you can because it's better for SEO. but I've seen Squarespace websites rank really well, really quickly. So it's about weighing the cost benefits, right? And especially starting out, like there's no need. Just go ahead and do a Squarespace website. And then maybe one day you'll get to a place where you want to invest in a website that is professionally built. That's what I did. But yeah, don't sweat it. Definitely don't sweat it. So next up is not really a tool, but I gotta include it, and that is an accountant that you love. Listen, there are just some professionals that you need to hire as a copywriter. And an accountant is so worth their weight in gold. And when you're first starting out, all you're going to need to do is give them your expenses. And if you're tracking that, I do the most simple thing. I just have a business account and a personal account. I keep my expenses separate. And all I need to do is send my statements to my accountant at the end of the year. That's it. But seriously, as a freelancer, don't do your taxes yourself. You're just going to stress yourself out. And it's so worth it. Keep in mind that every business expense is a way to run your business more efficiently so that you have the time to focus on the highest leverage task, the skill set that you are the best at. And if you're not an accountant yourself, why would you spend your time agonizing over your taxes when a professional can do it so quickly and for a good price? Truly, I'm telling you, this is one of the best ways that you can move from a freelancer to an entrepreneur, is to stop being your own bottleneck and to hire the professionals when you need them and to pay for the tools when you need them. This is how you run a more efficient business that feels good, that brings ease into your life. And again, it's how you run a business that you are running rather than it running you, which is so important to me. All right, 2 more tools. First, a forever student mindset. We live in such a dynamic time, and if you just have an open mind and are eager to learn and to stay flexible, you will grow, you will thrive, you will adapt, and you will be okay. You will come out on top even after a pandemic, even after a recession. This is the most important thing you can do, honestly. And we just don't talk about it enough, but it's really, really important. And it's something that will continue to serve you for the rest of your life, quite frankly. So work on adopting that forever student mindset. And remember that the only thing that's consistent is change itself. Okay, final tool. This is essential. And that final tool, that essential tool, is a community. I wish somebody had told me how important that would be when I first started, because I definitely didn't know and I definitely didn't have one. And it was so much harder because when you're having doubtful days, you don't have anyone to turn to. And when you're celebrating wins, you sometimes don't have anyone to turn to, because it's really likely that you're probably the only entrepreneur in your life or the only freelancer. And when you try to share it with your friends and family, maybe they're supportive, but they sometimes just don't really get it. And there's something so powerful about connecting with people who are in similar journeys to you so that you can share wins and doubts and fears and concerns and not feel alone. We are craving connection more than ever before, and finding a like-minded community of other freelance copywriters is going to make this whole journey so much more enjoyable, and it's going to make it less likely that you give up in the beginning, which is super important. Okay, I hope this helps. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, and please don't forget to subscribe. And of course, I love hearing from you guys in the comments. What are some tools that you use? I love hearing and learning from other people, other copywriters. So what are some tools that you use? And also keep in mind, tools change all the time. One of my favorite things about the software as a service space is that, sometimes I'll be like, man, it'd be really cool if I had this tool. And then I realize that tool has been made. You just have to search for it. So it's a really beautiful, ever-changing space. It's made so much opportunity available to us that wasn't available to us just even 5-10 years ago. So keep sharing tools. Keep sharing ideas with other copywriters and really surround yourself with a beautiful community. Thanks, guys.